Hard is it to receive a human form? Now we have received it. Difficult is it to hear the Dharma of the Buddha? Now we hear it. If we do not receive awakening in this life, in what life shall we do so? With sincerity, let us take refuge together in the three treasures. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I'd like to welcome everybody to the築地本願寺Buddhist Dharma talks in English. I'd like to extend my thoughts to all of you joining us today who have relatives or have yourself contracted the COVID-19 virus and facing hardships. I also, on behalf of Hongwanji, express our appreciation to the members of the medical system who are currently working around the clock beyond your call of duty. It is in times of turmoil such as these when we seek for ways to wade through the rough currents of life. Because our paths have crossed, your joining us today with this webcast is of great significance. Although I cannot see your faces directly, we are as one in heart listening to the Buddha Dharma. The Tsukiji Hongwanji, located in downtown Tokyo, has been providing Dharma talks in English for over 70 years. Generally, monthly meetings have been held on the last Saturday evenings. In order to prevent the spreading of the pandemic coronavirus and taking possible steps for its early containment, the Tsukiji Honganji will, for the first time, be webcasting the Dharma talks in English for the next few months. I am Koshin Yamamoto, the resident minister of Myoenji Temple in Kawasaki, and am the Dharma talk speaker for the month of April. At our monthly gatherings, we have almost always had first-timers attending, many from abroad, seeking broad Buddhist traditions, and many who have come to participate in Buddhist services for the first time. As is the case, I will first give a primer orientation of Jodo Shinshu. The Tsukiji Honganji is a Buddhist temple belonging to the Hongwanji of Jodo Shinshu school. The mother temple of Hongwanji is located in Kyoto. Jodo Shinshu, translated True Pure Land, known abroad as Jodo Shin Buddhism or Shin Buddhism, was founded over 800 years ago by Master Shinran, a Japanese priest who lived from 1173 to 1263. Shinran Shonin, the way of addressing Master Shinran, was a disciple of Master Honen, who lived 1133 to 1212, who was the founder of the Jodo Pure Land School. Shinran Shonin had no intention of starting a new school, insisting that he had no disciples of his own. Followers of Shinran Shonin's teachings eventually led to the separation of the two schools. The essential sutras for both schools are the same. The three Pure Land Sutras, which are the larger Pure Land Sutra, the Skabhati Sutra, the Meditation Sutra, and the smaller Pure Land Sutra, the Skabhati Sutra. Needless to say, Amida Buddha, the Tathagata, Amitabha, Amitayas, and the Nembutsu teachings root back to the teachings expounded by the historical Shakyamuni Buddha, who lived in northern India and attained enlightenment over 2,500 years ago. Buddhist teachings were then transmitted by top scholar monks of India, China, and Japan. In Japan, studies and practices were centered at Mount Hiei, where the Tendai school was seated. Mount Hiei was considered the center of the highest learning of Buddhism in Japan, a Buddhist university per se. Master Shonin and Shinan Shonin spent several decades on Mount Hiei, undergoing studies and practices. Master Shohonen was one of Tendai's esteemed scholar monks. He eventually left Mount Hiei to teach the Nembutsu teachings to the common people of Kyoto. Shinan Shonin also descended after 20 years on Mount Hiei and became a disciple of Master Honen. Under the Master's guidance, Shinan Shonin abandoned efforts to attain enlightenment by his own power, that is self-power, and entrusted himself single-heartedly to the workings of Amida Buddha. This is other power. It is because of this relationship that Shinan Shonin, for the rest of his life, referred to Master Honen as his Dharma master. A bodhisattva, or bosatsu in Japanese, is the unenlightened stage of a Buddha aspirant. Before the Amida Buddha attained enlightenment, as a practicing bodhisattva known as Dharmakara, 48 vows were made, which, upon completion, would provide a means to save all sentient beings equally. Of these 48 vows, both Pure Land schools consider the 18th vow as being the primal vow, the Hongan. One major difference between Master Honen's Jodo and Shinan Shonin's Jodo Shin would be the importance of the recitation of the Nembutsu, the Buddha name, Namo Amida Butsu. In the Jodo school, more importance is placed on the practice of recitation. Shinan Shonin considered the Nembutsu as an expression of gratitude for receiving Amida Buddha's primal vow to unequivocally lead all to enlightenment. That is, Buddhist wisdom, or in Japanese it would be called Satori. Another would be the marital status. Under the guidance of Master Honen, the disciples were taught that in Amida Buddha's eyes, there was no distinction between lay and priesthood, single or married, or male or female. If one should decide to marry, have a family, and promote the Nembutsu teachings, there was nothing hindering it. Master Honen was already in his 70s and so remained single. In the end, Shinan Shonin was the first monk to publicly marry and have a family. Therefore, what is now Jodo Shinshu exemplified to the common lay people the great compassion of Amida Buddha to save all sentient beings. Today, I will be speaking on the topic, the Nembutsu, getting to know who is arrogant, conceited, prideful, and vain. Looking at the world in general, we can see that every country is different. Languages, customs, religion, and politics all vary, even among neighboring countries. A common daily life experience cannot be shared around the world. What we take for granted is really very precious. Once you should lose it. To find common ground, people often speak of peace. Peace is not the state of not at war, but it has to include the state of the people being free of anxiety and being fulfilled. Just looking at this concept alone, one can see that being free of anxiety and being fulfilled is not the same for everyone. Humans have abilities, some more than others. Some are born stronger or have better conditions to begin with. So, all these varying conditions, there is only one common factor. We are born into this world, so therefore we must eventually pass away. We are all have only limited time as humans aware of this fact. The historical Shakyamuni Buddha taught that life of birth, aging, illness, and death is suffering and is shared by all sentient existences. Buddhism teaches the path to live a full life, overcoming the difficulties of living, and to attain enlightenment, whereby we are able to permanently exit out of the cycle of birth and death. Throughout history, there have been natural disasters and conflicts, all causing suffering to those who were involved in them. In the days of Shinran Shonin, endless feudal wars, floods, droughts, famines, and epidemics caused extreme hardships on the people. Having spent 20 years on Mount Hiei, where ritual practices were common, as a Buddhist priest, it caused a great sense of helplessness to Shinran Shonin, who then, for the purpose of trying to save the masses, began the practice of reading the 3 Pure Land Sutras 1,000 times. Shinran Shonin terminates this practice after 4 or 5 days, upon reflecting back that the salvation of the masses was the workings of the Amida Buddha through the Nembutsu. And as an imperfect human being, there were no rituals or practices possible that he could do to attain that goal. His reflection was based on his conviction that entrusting himself to the Nembutsu, the name of the Buddha, and guiding others to entrust themselves to it is the only way to respond to the benevolence of Amida Buddha. What was possible for him was to continue spreading the Nembutsu teachings of the Amida Buddha, the Buddha of infinite life, which is boundless compassion, and infinite light, unhindered light, able to reach anywhere and everywhere, which is representing infinite wisdom. Shinshu spread the Nembutsu teachings until he passed away at the age of 90. During his lifetime, he was able to reach out to the common people of Niigata on the Sea of Japan side, the Kanto Plains area, and eventually back in Kyoto in his later years. He has written volumes on the Nembutsu, both in academic as well as in simple words, until his late 80s. In one of the hymns on the Pure Land, Shinshu wrote, "Watching over the followers of the Nembutsu, in the worlds of the 10 quarters, as numerous as dust particles, he embraces them and does not forsake. Hence, he is called Amida." In close observation of this hymn, one will notice that the order of how we are able to attain enlightenment. The way of Nembutsu, as vowed by the Bodhisattva Dharma, as the means to save all sentient beings, is provided to all, without exception. Those receiving and entrusting upon the workings of this vow is embraced, never to be forsaken or abandoned. Since this was so, the Bodhisattva Dharmakara becomes fully enlightened, and henceforth became known as Amitabha or Amitayas, the Buddha of infinite unhindered light and immeasurable life. We can see in Shinshu's words, as recorded in A Record and Lament of Divergences, in chapter 2, I will read, "As for me, I simply accept and entrust myself to what my revered teacher told me. Just say the Nembutsu and be saved by Amida. Nothing else is involved. I have no idea whether the Nembutsu is truly the seed for my being born in the Pure Land, or whether it is the karmic act for which I must fall into hell. Should I have been deceived by Master Honen in saying the Nembutsu were to fall into hell, even then I would have no regrets. The reason is, if I could attain Buddhahood by endeavoring in other practices, but said the Nembutsu and so fell into hell, then I would feel regret at having been deceived. But I am incapable of any other practice. So, hell is decidedly my abode, whatever I do." If Amida's primal vow is true, Shakyamuni's teaching cannot be false. If the Buddha's teaching is true, Shantao's commentaries cannot be false. If Shantao's commentaries are true, can Honen's words be lies? If Honen's words are true, then surely what I say cannot be empty. Such, in the end, is how this foolish person entrusts himself to the vow. Beyond this, whether you take up the Nembutsu or whether you abandon it, is for each of you to determine. Thus it was said. Here again, we can see that Shinran Shonin single-heartedly relied on the primal vow and further did not push the Nembutsu upon the listener. This was because his stance was that the vow works upon the receiver, not the words of Shinran Shonin. In one of his many letters, in response to queries from the Nembutsu followers of the Kanto area, Shinran Shonin wrote, "There was a time for each of you when you knew nothing of Amida's vow and did not say the name of Amida Buddha. But now, guided by the compassionate means of the Shakyamuni and Amida, you have begun to hear the vow. Formerly, you were drunk with the wine of ignorance and had a liking only for the three poisons of greed, anger, and folly. But since you have begun to hear the Buddha's vow, you have gradually awakened from the drunkenness of ignorance, gradually rejected the three poisons, and come to prefer at all times the medicine of Amida Buddha. In people who have long heard the Buddha's name and said the Nembutsu, surely there are signs of rejecting the evil of this world and signs of their desire to cast off the evil in themselves. When people first begin to hear the Buddha's vow, they wonder, having become thoroughly aware of the karmic evil in their hearts and minds, how they will ever attain birth in Amida's Pure Land as they are. To such people, we teach that since we are possessed of blind passions, the Buddha receives us without judging whether our hearts are good or bad. Upon hearing this, a person's trust in the Buddha has grown deep. He or she comes to abhor such as self and lament continued existence in the birth and death. And such a person then joyfully says the name of Amida Buddha, deeply entrusting oneself to the vow. That people stop doing wrong as the heart moves them, although earlier they gave thought to such things and committed them as their minds dictated, is surely a sign of having rejected this world. Moreover, since Shinjin that aspires for attainment of birth arises through the encouragement of Shakyamuni and Amida, once the true and real heart is made to rise in us, how can we remain as we were, possessed of blind passions? As you can see, the followers of Jodo Shinshu path gain Shinjin, the entrusting heart, which is provided by the Amida Buddha in our present lives. A person of Shinjin has not attained enlightenment or attained Buddhahood in this life, but is assured of enlightenment at the end of our physical lives, immediately through the birth in the Pure Land. This process is provided by the Amida Buddha. Our status in our present life is called the state of non-retrogression of those assured of birth in the Pure Land. And in Japanese, this is called Shoujoju Futaiten. Upon attaining the can lead ordinary lives, freed from hindrances, which may affect one's attainment of enlightenment. This characteristic of Shinran Shonin's teachings is the way of living called Heizei Gojo, or attainment of enlightenment within ordinary living, without having to sever from our blind passions. Shinran Shonin wrote at the end of his writing on the chapter on practice the following. When the one thought moment of joy arises, nirvana is attained without severing blind passions. When ignorant and wise, even grave offenders and slanderers of the Dharma, all alike turn and enter Shinjin, they are like waters that, on entering the ocean, become one in taste with it. The light of compassion that grasps us, illumines, and protects us always. The darkness of our ignorance is already broken through. Still, the clouds and mists of greed and desire, anger and hatred cover, as always, the sky of true and real Shinjin. But though light of the sun is veiled by the clouds and mists, beneath the clouds and mists there is brightness, not dark. In Jodo Shinshu, we have many accounts of very devout Nembutsu followers, and they are known in Japanese as Myokoni. The Myokoni were of various backgrounds, but all led a fulfilled life after listening to and receiving Amida Buddha's great compassion. Representative of them are Asahara Saichi of Iwami, which is present-day Shimane Prefecture, and Ashikaga Genza of Inaba, present-day Tottori Prefecture. The way of life for them was a life of gratitude, supported by the Nembutsu. Asahara Saichi saying, I heard a splendid thing. A common mortal becomes a Buddha. Even though I hear repeatedly, nothing changes. That who does not change is who the Buddha seeks to save. From the Buddha, I receive the Buddha and say, Namo Amida Butsu. Saichi, where are you? I was given the Pure Land, but I'm still here in this Saha world. This is gratitude, Namo Amida Butsu. I've already been shown the Pure Land and say the Nembutsu here in this Saha world. I, Saichi, having resolved my death and funeral, with Namo Amida Butsu, I remain in this world. This was some of the sayings which were recorded by Saichi. Now I have some sayings from Ashikaga Genza. Even if I forget, as long as there is Amida who won't forget, I remain myself, forgetting along the way. I, Genza, more evil than others, the primal vow, the Gohongan, seeks to save me first. So therefore, there is no one who won't be saved. For these Nembutsu followers, though through listening to the Nembutsu teachings, the way of life filled with challenges and blind passions changed to one of gratitude. Therefore, we can only rely on Amida Buddha's primal vow, the Hongan, to be able to attain enlightenment. The work done by the Buddha upon us is other power. By single-hearted reliance upon the Amida Buddha's primal vow, can we all equally attain enlightenment without exception. Let us earnestly listen to the Buddha, Dharma, with our hearts. In conclusion, we are brought to acknowledge the fact that as common ordinary beings, we are filled with misconceptions and driven by our worldly needs, that we are unable to see our real selves. Thinking that sundry practices will help us lead better lives, or however irrational the actions that we may take, we are blinded by these delusions. We must give up our trust in our powerless self in the process of attaining enlightenment. Powerless, meaning without power or not having the capability. Awakened through the life of Shinran and the Nembutsu, we are able to see our arrogant, conceited, prideful, and vain selves, and are led to entrust upon the primal vow. Let us live our present lives to the fullest, regardless of all the anxieties which we may face, assured, knowing of the primal vow working upon us. In closing, I ask each of you to thank and support the care provided by the healthcare personnel in these times of crisis. Let us individually do what each of us can in order to contain the virus crisis at the earliest possible date. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope that you will be able to join us at Tsukiji at the earliest possible date upon containment. Amida Buddha surrounds all men and all forms of life with infinite life and light. Particularly does the Buddha send forth loving thoughts to those in suffering and sorrow, to all those in doubt and ignorance, to all who are striving to attain truth, and to those whose feet are standing close to the great change men call death. Amida Buddha sends forth oceans of wisdom and compassion. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandas, 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 namandas. Namandas.
す。